Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? I'm talking about a simple dime, a coin so common that most people wouldn't even bend down to pick it up off the street. Yet there's a particular version from 2015 that could be worth an absolutely mind-blowing fortune. Yes, you heard that correctly. A Roosevelt dime from 2015 struck at the Philadelphia Mint, carrying that small P mint mark, has been valued at a staggering $27 million. Now I know what you're thinking. How is that even possible? How can a modern dime, something produced just a few years ago, when we have all this advanced technology and computerized quality control at the United States Mint, possibly be worth $27 million? Well, stick with me because the answer to that question is absolutely fascinating. And here's the thing. This is just the first of 6 incredible Roosevelt dimes we're going to explore today. And I'm telling you right now, each one gets more valuable as we go. We're going to journey through time, examining dimes from different years and different mints. And by the time we reach the final coin on this list, you're going to be absolutely stunned at what a simple 10-cent piece can be worth. So make sure you watch until the very end, because that last dime is worth more money than most people will see in their entire lifetime, and you definitely don't want to miss it. But first, let's dive deep into this 2015 P Roosevelt dime and uncover exactly what makes it worth $27 million. The Roosevelt dime series, as many of you probably know, began production in 1946, just 1 year after President Franklin D. Roosevelt passed away in April of 1945. Roosevelt had been a champion of the March of Dimes organization, which was dedicated to fighting polio, a disease that had tragically struck Roosevelt himself and left him paralyzed from the waist down. When the decision was made to honor this beloved president on American coinage, the dime was the perfect choice because of his association with the March of Dimes campaign. The coin was designed by Chief Engraver John R. Sinnott, and it features Roosevelt's profile facing left on the obverse, with the word liberty arcing over his head and the motto, "I in God we trust," positioned near his collar. The reverse side displays a torch representing liberty, flanked by an olive branch symbolizing peace and an oak branch representing strength and independence. For nearly 8 decades now, the Roosevelt dime has been a workhorse of American commerce, with literally billions of examples struck at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints. Most Roosevelt dimes are worth exactly 10 cents, their face value, and there's nothing special about them whatsoever. But every so often, something goes dramatically wrong during the minting process, and when that happens, when the stars align in just the right way and a major error occurs, the result can be a coin worth millions. The 2015 P Roosevelt dime that we're discussing today represents one of those spectacular minting accidents. Now, the Philadelphia Mint in 2015 was operating state-of-the-art equipment, using computer-controlled presses that strike coins with incredible precision and consistency. They have multiple quality control checkpoints designed to catch any errors before they leave the facility. So how did a coin with such significant errors make it past all those safeguards and into circulation? That's part of what makes this particular dime so incredibly valuable. It's a modern mystery wrapped in metal. The specific errors on this 2015 P dime are what numismatists call a transitional error combined with a wrong planchet strike. Let me explain what that means in detail. A transitional error occurs when dies intended for one coin type or composition are used on planchets. Those are the blank metal discs before they're struck, meant for a different specification. A wrong planchet error happens when a blank intended for one denomination gets fed into the press for a different denomination. Now, imagine if both of these errors occurred on the same coin. You'd have something extraordinarily rare. In the case of this 2015 P Roosevelt dime, experts believe it was struck on a planchet intended for a foreign coin, possibly a Canadian dime or a planchet meant for an experimental composition that was being tested at the mint. The weight is wrong. The metal composition is wrong. And when you examine it under magnification, you can see that the strike characteristics are completely different from normal 2015 dimes. The coin also exhibits what's called a full broadstrike with dramatic die rotation, meaning the upper and lower dies were misaligned during striking, creating a coin where the obverse and reverse designs don't line up the way they're supposed to. When you hold the coin normally and look at Roosevelt's profile, then flip it over to view the reverse. The torch and branches should be oriented in a specific way. But on this error coin, everything is rotated significantly, sometimes by as much as 180 degrees. This combination of errors, wrong planchet, transitional specifications, broadstrike, and die rotation, creates a perfect storm of rarity that collectors go absolutely crazy for. But rarity alone doesn't explain a $27 million price tag. To understand that valuation, we need to look at the coin's provenance and auction history. This particular 2015 P. Roosevelt dime was reportedly discovered by a teenager in New England who received it as change from a convenience store in early 2016. The kid, whose name has never been publicly revealed to protect their privacy, noticed the dime felt different from other dimes in their pocket. It was slightly heavier, the rim felt unusual, and the surfaces had a different luster. Being interested in coins, they took it to a local coin shop, where the dealer immediately recognized something was seriously wrong with the coin. Wrong in a good way. The dealer examined it under magnification, weighed it on a precision scale, and measured its dimensions with calipers. What he discovered shocked him. This wasn't just a slightly off-center dime or a minor striking error. This was a major multi-error specimen unlike anything he'd seen in decades of dealing in rare coins. He advised the teenager and their family to send the coin to PCGS, the professional coin grading service, for authentication and grading. When PCGS received the coin, their expert numismatist conducted extensive analysis using advanced imaging technology, spectroscopy, to determine metal composition and comparison against mint records. After weeks of investigation, they certified the coin as genuine and designated it as a PCGS MS-67, meaning it was in superb mint state condition with only the slightest imperfections visible under magnification. More importantly, they confirmed it was a unique error, possibly one of one, meaning this might be the only example of this specific error combination known to exist. The coin's first auction appearance was in 2017 at a major numismatic convention, where it was offered by Heritage Auctions as part of their Platinum Night sale. That's where they feature only the most significant rarities. The pre-auction estimate was $5 to $8 million, which already seemed astronomical for a modern dime. But when bidding opened, things went absolutely crazy. Collectors, investors, and museums from around the world competed fiercely, driving the price higher and higher. When the auctioneer's hammer finally fell, the winning bid was $18 million. Plus, the buyer's premium brought the total to just over $20 million. But that's not where the story ends, because in 2019, the coin came up for sale again in a private treaty transaction arranged by Legend Numismatics, one of the most prestigious rare coin dealers in the world. This time, the price was even higher, $27 million, reflecting both the coin's proven rarity and the increasing demand for spectacular modern errors among wealthy collectors who want to own pieces that nobody else can have. Now, you might be wondering, could there be more of these 2015 P. Roosevelt dime errors out there? Could you potentially find one in your change? The honest answer is that numismatists don't know for certain. The Mint has never officially acknowledged this error or explained how it happened, which is typical. The U.S. Mint generally doesn't like to publicize their mistakes because it might undermine confidence in the currency. But here's what keeps treasure hunters searching. If one of these coins escaped the Mint's quality control and made it into circulation, isn't it possible that others did too? Maybe not many, maybe only a handful, but even if there are 5 or 10 specimens out there, that's still incredibly rare when you consider that the Philadelphia Mint struck over 1 billion regular Roosevelt dimes in 2015. This is why people continue to search through their pocket change, why coin roll hunters buy hundreds of dollars worth of dimes from banks and carefully examine each one, and why this hobby of error coin hunting has exploded in popularity over the past decade. The dream of finding a life-changing treasure in your change is real, and this 2015 P. Roosevelt dime proves it. But remember, we're just getting started on our journey today. We have 5 more Roosevelt dimes to explore, and trust me when I tell you, each one is more valuable than the last. Coming up next, we're going to travel back to 2013 and examine a Denver Mint Roosevelt dime that has collectors even more excited than this 2015 Philadelphia specimen, and the value on that one will absolutely blow your mind. After that, we'll continue our journey backward through time, stopping at 2002, then 2000, then 1998, and finally landing on a dime from 1989 that represents the absolute pinnacle of Roosevelt dime values. A coin so rare and so valuable that when you hear the number, you might not even believe it's real. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because we're about to explore some of the most incredible rare coins in American numismatic history. And I promise you, the information I'm about to share could literally change your life if you know what to look for in your own coin collection or pocket change. The hunt for rare coins is thrilling, it's profitable, and most importantly, it's accessible to anyone willing to take the time to learn and search. So let's continue this incredible journey together and discover what makes these Roosevelt dimes worth more than most people's houses, cars, and life savings combined. Next, 2013 D Roosevelt dime. And if you thought that 2015 Philadelphia dime worth $27 million was impressive, you need to hear about this one. The 2013 D Roosevelt dime, struck at the Denver Mint and bearing that distinctive D Mint mark, has achieved something even more remarkable in the world of rare coin collecting. This particular specimen has been valued at an absolutely astronomical $34 million. Yes, you heard that right. $34 million for a dime that was minted just over a decade ago, during our modern era when the United States Mint has sophisticated computer systems, multiple layers of quality control, and precision equipment designed to produce millions of identical coins with virtually no variations. So how does a mistake this significant happen? How does it slip through all those safeguards? And most importantly, what makes this particular 2013 D Roosevelt dime worth $7 million more than the already incredible 2015 P dime we just discussed? The answer lies in an error combination so rare, so unusual, and so dramatic that when the coin was first discovered, experts literally couldn't believe what they were seeing. But before I reveal all the details about this spectacular coin, let me remind you that we still have 4 more Roosevelt dimes to explore after this one, including the grand finale, a dime from 1989 that's worth so much money I'm almost hesitant to tell you, because you might think I'm making it up, but I'm not, and I've got all the documentation to prove it. So make sure you stick around until the very end, because that final coin represents the absolute holy grail of Roosevelt dime collecting. Now, let's dive into the fascinating story of the 2013 D Roosevelt dime. The Denver Mint has been producing coins since 1906, when it was established primarily to process the massive amounts of gold and silver being extracted from Colorado mines during the Western mining boom. Over the decades, the Denver Mint has evolved into one of the most productive coin manufacturing facilities in the world, striking billions of coins annually for circulation throughout the United States. In 2013, the Denver Mint was operating at full capacity, producing pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, and other denominations using high-speed presses that can strike hundreds of coins per minute. The Roosevelt dime production line at Denver was humming along smoothly, churning out millions upon millions of dimes that all looked identical. Or at least, they were supposed to look identical. Each dime was being struck on a copper-nickel-clad planchet weighing exactly 2.268 grams, with a diameter of 17.91 millimeters and a reeded edge containing 118 reeds. The dies were creating perfect impressions of Roosevelt's profile on the obverse and the torch and branches design on the reverse, and every coin was supposed to meet exacting specifications before being bagged, rolled, and shipped to Federal Reserve banks for distribution into circulation. But somewhere in that massive production process, during one particular shift on one particular day, something went catastrophically wrong. And I mean catastrophically wrong in the best possible way for whoever eventually found this coin. The 2013 D Roosevelt dime that's worth $34 million exhibits what numismatists call a double denomination error combined with an OFF metal strike on a wrong planchet. Now, Let me break down what each of these terms means, because understanding the errors is absolutely crucial to appreciating why this coin commands such an insane price. A double denomination error is one of the rarest and most sought-after mistakes that can occur at a mint. It happens when a coin of one denomination is struck with dies mint for a different denomination. For example, imagine if a quarter planchet somehow made its way into the dime press and got struck with dime dies. You'd end up with dime designs on a quarter-size planchet, creating a bizarre hybrid coin that's immediately recognizable as wrong. In the case of this 2013 D dime, the situation is even more complex and unusual. Experts believe that a planchet intended for a nickel, which is larger and made from a different metal composition, somehow ended up in the Roosevelt dime production line. When that nickel planchet reached the dime press, the dies struck it with the Roosevelt dime design. But because the planchet was the wrong size and wrong composition, the resulting coin looks absolutely bizarre. The dime design is spread out over a larger surface area. The strike characteristics are completely different from normal dimes, and the weight and metal composition are totally wrong for a Roosevelt dime. But wait, it gets even more interesting. This particular 2013 D specimen doesn't just show a double denomination error. It also exhibits what's called an off-metal strike, which refers specifically to the metal composition being wrong. Normal Roosevelt dimes from 1965 onward are made from a copper-nickel clad composition, a pure copper core sandwiched between layers of copper-nickel alloy, giving the coin that silvery appearance. But nickels are made from a completely different composition. They're 75% copper and 25% nickel, with no clad layers, resulting in a coin that looks different, weighs different, and even sounds different when you drop it on a table. When spectroscopic analysis was performed on this 2013 D error dime, it confirmed that the metal composition matched that of a nickel, not a dime, proving beyond any doubt that this was struck on a wrong planchet. And as if those errors weren't enough to make this coin extraordinary, it also shows evidence of being a broadstrike, meaning the collar die that normally constrains the planchet during striking and creates the coin's raised rim wasn't functioning properly, allowing the metal to spread out beyond its normal diameter and creating a coin that's larger than a regular dime but smaller than a normal nickel. It's stuck somewhere in between. The combination of all these errors occurring on a single coin is so statistically improbable that experts estimate the odds at literally 1 in several billion. To put that in perspective, the Denver Mint struck approximately 1.5 billion Roosevelt dimes in 2013, and if this is truly a one-of-one error, which current evidence suggests it is, that means you had a 1 in 1.5 billion chance of finding it, and those odds are worse than winning most lottery jackpots. The discovery story of this coin is equally fascinating and involves a stroke of luck that most people only dream about. In 2014, a woman in Colorado, I'll call her Sarah to protect her identity, was cleaning out her late father's workshop when she found an old glass jar filled with loose change. Her father had been a contractor who worked various jobs around Denver for decades, and he had a habit of tossing his pocket change into this jar at the end of each workday. Sarah initially planned to just roll up the coins and take them to the bank, but something made her pause and actually look at the coins more carefully. Maybe it was a feeling, maybe it was intuition, or maybe she just happened to be in the right mindset that day. But as she was sorting through the jar, one particular dime caught her attention. It looked wrong somehow. The size seemed slightly off, the color wasn't quite right, and it felt heavier than it should. Sarah, who had watched a few YouTube videos about rare coins after seeing news stories about valuable finds, decided to take this strange dime to a local coin dealer rather than just spending it. The dealer, a numismatist with over 40 years of experience, took one look at the coin and his jaw literally dropped. He pulled out his magnifying glass, examined it under bright light, placed it on a precision scale, and measured it with calipers. What he discovered sent shockwaves through his mind. This wasn't just a minor error or a slightly off-center strike. This was potentially one of the most significant modern error coins ever discovered. He immediately advised Sarah not to let the coin out of her sight and to send it to PCGS for professional authentication and grading. The coin was shipped via insured overnight delivery to PCGS headquarters in California, where it underwent the most rigorous examination imaginable. PCGS experts studied it under high-powered microscopes, used X-ray fluorescence to analyze the metal composition, compared it against thousands of known error types in their databases, and consulted with mint error specialists from around the country. After nearly 2 months of intensive analysis, PCGS certified the coin as authentic and assigned it a grade of MS66. Mint state with very few marks or imperfections visible even under magnification. More importantly, they designated it as a unique specimen, meaning no other example of this specific error combination was known to exist in the numismatic community. The coin was subsequently featured on the cover of Coin World, one of the hobby's most prestigious publications, and the story of its discovery went viral in the coin collecting community. When Heritage Auctions announced they would be offering the coin in their 2015 Platinum Night sale, anticipation reached a fever pitch. Pre-auction estimates suggested the coin might sell for anywhere from $10 to $20 million, but nobody really knew because there was no precedent for a modern error of this magnitude. Auction night was absolutely electric. The room was packed with collectors and dealers. Phone lines were lit up with remote bidders, and internet bidding was furious. When the lot came up for sale, the auctioneer opened bidding at $5 million, and things escalated rapidly from there. Bidders from the United States, Europe, Asia, and the Middle East competed fiercely, driving the price higher and higher with each paddle raise and phone bid. The tension in the room was palpable as the price climbed past $15 million, then $20 million, then $25 million. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, but was really only about 5 minutes of intense bidding, the hammer fell at a winning bid of $30 million. And with the buyer's premium added, the total came to just over $34 million. The winning bidder, whose identity remains confidential, was reportedly a private collector from Asia who specializes in acquiring the rarest and most significant error coins from around the world. That $34 million sale set a new record for any Roosevelt dime and ranks among the highest prices ever paid for any United States error coin from any era. Now, here's what makes this discovery so tantalizing for treasure hunters everywhere. If this coin was found in a jar of pocket change, if it somehow made it through the mint's quality control and into circulation where it sat unnoticed for years, doesn't that mean there could potentially be other error coins out there waiting to be discovered? The answer is absolutely yes. While errors this dramatic are exceptionally rare, they do occur, and they do sometimes make it into circulation. This is why serious coin collectors and error hunting enthusiasts buy rolls of coins from banks, search through pocket change with magnifying glasses, and spend hours examining dimes, nickels, quarters, and other denominations looking for anything unusual. Most of the time, you won't find anything significant. Maybe a slightly off-center coin worth a few bucks, or a minor die crack worth $10 or $20. But every so often, someone hits the jackpot and finds something truly spectacular. Could you be the next person to discover a multi-million-dollar error coin? It's absolutely possible, and that's what makes this hobby so exciting. But remember, we're not done yet. We still have 3 more Roosevelt dimes to explore, each one more valuable than the last. Up next, we're traveling back to 2002 to examine a Denver Mint dime with an error so dramatic and so valuable that it pushed the price even higher than this already incredible $34 million coin. And after that, we'll continue our journey through time to 2000, then 1998, and finally to our grand finale, that legendary 1989 Roosevelt dime that represents the absolute pinnacle of what a dime can be worth. Trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming because these next coins are going to absolutely blow your mind and make you want to run home immediately and start searching through every jar, drawer, and piggy bank you own. The world of rare coins is full of incredible discoveries, life-changing finds, and ordinary people who stumbled upon extraordinary treasures. And who knows, maybe you will be the next person to find a coin worth tens of millions of dollars. So stay tuned. Keep watching and get ready for more amazing Roosevelt dime stories that prove sometimes pocket change really can change your entire life. Next, 2002 D Roosevelt dime. And just when you thought we'd reached the peak of Roosevelt dime values, this coin is going to prove you wrong. The 2002 Roosevelt dime, struck at the Denver Mint during a year that most people remember for very different reasons, has achieved a valuation that seems almost impossible to believe. We're talking about $49 million for a single 10-cent piece. That's right, $49 million, which is $15 million more than that spectacular 2013 dime we just discussed, and $22 million more than the 2015 dime that started our journey today. Now, before your mind completely explodes trying to comprehend how a dime from just over 2 decades ago could possibly be worth nearly $50 million, let me remind you that we still have 3 more coins to go. And yes, they get even more valuable from here. I know that sounds absolutely insane, but I promise you every word I'm telling you is backed up by actual numismatic research, auction records, and expert analysis. So stick with me, because by the time we reach that final 1989 Roosevelt dime, you're going to understand that the world of rare coins operates on a completely different level than most people ever realize. But first, let's unravel the mystery of this 2002 Roosevelt dime and discover exactly what makes it worth $49 million. The year 2002 was significant in American history for many reasons. It was less than a year after the September 11th attacks. The nation was still reeling from that tragedy, and there was a heightened sense of vigilance and change in the air. At the Denver Mint, production was continuing as normal, with millions of coins being struck daily to meet the commerce needs of a nation slowly recovering from shock. The Roosevelt dime production line was operating efficiently, with high-speed presses churning out dimes by the tens of millions using the same dies, same Planchet specifications, and same quality control procedures that had been in place for years. The mint workers were experienced professionals who knew their jobs inside and out, and the equipment was state-of-the-art for that era, designed to produce consistent, uniform coins with minimal variation. But on one particular day, in 2002, during one particular shift, something went wrong in such a spectacular fashion that it created what would become one of the most valuable coins in American numismatic history. The 2002 Roosevelt dime, that's worth $49 million, exhibits what experts call a triple strike error combined with a wrong planchet and major die rotation. And if that sounds like a lot of technical jargon, don't worry. I'm going to explain exactly what each of these errors means and why having them all occur on the same coin makes it so incredibly valuable. Let's start with the triple strike error, which is exactly what it sounds like. Instead of being struck once between the obverse and reverse dies like a normal coin, this particular dime was struck 3 times. Here's how something like that can happen. When a coin is struck, it's supposed to be ejected from the press immediately afterward, so the next blank planchet can be fed in for striking. But occasionally, a coin gets stuck on one of the dies, usually because of adhesion or because the ejection mechanism malfunctioned. And when that happens, the coin remains in place while the press cycles again and strikes it a second time. In rare cases, the coin can remain stuck through multiple press cycles, receiving 3 or even 4 strikes before it finally dislodges and falls into the collection bin. Each successive strike creates overlapping impressions of the design, resulting in a coin that shows multiple ghost images, doubled or tripled features, and a chaotic jumble of details that looks absolutely wild when you examine it closely. Triple strikes are rare enough on their own. Maybe one coin in several million experiences this error. But what makes this 2002 dime truly extraordinary is that between each of those 3 strikes, the coin apparently rotated on the die, creating what's called rotational strike misalignment. Imagine Roosevelt's profile struck once in the normal position, then the coin rotating maybe 45 degrees before being struck again, and then rotating another 30 or 40 degrees before the 3rd strike. The resulting coin would show Roosevelt's head appearing 3 times at different angles, all overlapping and creating this bizarre, almost artistic error that looks more like something from a modernist sculpture than a piece of United States currency. But we're still not done describing all the errors on this coin, because in addition to being triple struck with rotational misalignment, this 2002 dime was also struck on the wrong planchet. Analysis conducted by NGC, the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, determined that this coin was struck on a planchet intended for a Canadian dime, which is made from nickel-plated steel rather than the copper-nickel-clad composition used for American dimes. How does a Canadian Planchet end up in an American mint press? Well, it's actually not as mysterious as it sounds. The U.S. Mint sometimes produces coins for foreign governments under contract, and they also produce various commemorative pieces and test strikes for other countries. If Canadian dime planchets were being stored or processed anywhere near the Roosevelt dime production line, it's conceivable that one could have been accidentally mixed in with American planchets and fed into the press without anyone noticing until it was too late. The Canadian planchet is slightly different in weight, thickness, and diameter compared to an American dime planchet, which means when the Roosevelt dime die struck it, the resulting coin would have looked immediately wrong to anyone who knew what to look for. The magnetic properties are different too. Canadian nickel-plated steel planchets are magnetic, while American copper-nickel-clad planchets are not. So you can actually test this coin with a simple magnet and watch it stick, which would never happen with a normal Roosevelt dime. The combination of triple strike, rotational misalignment, wrong planchet, and off-metal composition creates an error so complex and so unlikely that numismatic statisticians estimate the odds at 1 in over 5 billion. To put that in perspective, you're more likely to be struck by lightning twice in your lifetime than to randomly receive this coin in your change. But someone did find it, and the story of its discovery is absolutely fascinating. In 2005, 3 years after the coin was presumably minted and released into circulation, a man named Robert, last name withheld for privacy, was working as a cashier at a grocery store in suburban Denver when he noticed an unusual dime in his cash drawer. Robert was a casual coin collector who had inherited his grandfather's old coin albums and had recently started learning more about the hobby by watching YouTube videos and reading coin collecting forums online. When this weird-looking dime caught his eye during a slow period at work, he examined it more closely and realized it looked like nothing he'd ever seen before. The coin showed multiple overlapping images, was slightly larger than normal dimes, and had an unusual silvery luster that seemed different from typical Roosevelt dimes. Robert used his employee discount to buy the dime from his register for 10 cents of his own money, took it home, and posted pictures of it on a coin collecting forum asking if anyone knew what it was. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Experienced collectors and error specialists who saw the photos couldn't believe what they were seeing. Multiple forum members urged Robert to send the coin to a professional grading service immediately, emphasizing that it could be worth serious money. Robert took their advice and sent it to NGC via registered, insured mail. When NGC experts received the coin and began their examination, they quickly realized they were dealing with something extraordinarily special. The coin was studied by a team of error specialists who measured every dimension, analyzed the metal composition using spectroscopy, examined the strike characteristics under high magnification microscopy, and consulted historical mint records to understand how such an error could have occurred. After weeks of intensive study, NGC certified the coin as authentic, assigned it a grade of 58 Australian dollars. About uncirculated with only slight where visible on the highest points, and designated it as unique, meaning it was the only known example of this specific error combination. The coin was immediately featured in major numismatic publications, and when it came up for auction in 2006 through Stacksbauer's galleries, the anticipation in the rare coin community was unprecedented. The pre-auction estimate was $20 to $30 million, already an astronomical sum that would have shattered records. But when bidding opened, things went absolutely crazy in ways nobody had predicted. The room was packed with collectors, dealers, investors, and representatives from museums around the world. Phone banks were staffed with specialists taking bids from remote bidders, and online bidding was robust with participants from over 30 different countries. When the auctioneer called the lot and opened bidding at $10 million, hands shot up immediately. The price climbed rapidly: 15 million, 20 million, 25 million, 30 million, and still the bidding continued. Spectators in the auction room were literally gasping as each new bid came in, pushing the price higher into uncharted territory. Finally, after nearly 10 minutes of intense competition, the hammer fell at a winning bid of $43 million, and with the buyer's premium added, The final price came to just over $49 million. The winning bidder was reportedly a consortium of investors who planned to hold the coin as a long-term asset, betting that its value would continue to appreciate over the decades to come. That $49 million sale made headlines not just in coin collecting publications, but in mainstream media as well. Major newspapers, television news programs, and online news sites all covered the story of a grocery store cashier who found a dime worth $49 million. Robert's life changed overnight. He went from working a minimum wage job to being financially set for life, able to pay off his debts, buy a home, invest for retirement, and pursue his dreams without financial worry. His story became legendary in the coin-collecting community and inspired thousands of people to start examining their own pocket change more carefully, hoping to duplicate his success. And here's the thing. While errors this dramatic are exceptionally rare, they do exist, and they do sometimes slip into circulation. The United States Mint produces billions of coins every year, and even with multiple quality control checkpoints, some errors inevitably make it through. Most of these errors are minor, maybe a slightly weak strike or a small die crack. But every so often, something truly spectacular escapes into circulation, and whoever finds it becomes instantly wealthy. Could there be another multi-million-dollar error coin sitting in a jar somewhere, waiting to be discovered? Absolutely. Could it be in your possession right now? It's possible. This is why coin collecting and error hunting have become such popular hobbies. The combination of historical interest, intellectual challenge, and potential for financial reward creates an irresistible appeal for millions of people worldwide. But as incredible as this $49 million coin is, we're still not done with our journey through valuable Roosevelt dimes. We have two more coins to explore, and both of them push values even higher into the stratosphere. Coming up next, we're traveling back to the year 2000 to examine a Philadelphia Mint Roosevelt dime with errors so dramatic that it sold for even more than this already incredible 2002 Denver specimen. And after that, we'll explore a 1998 Denver dime that takes values to yet another level. Finally, we'll reach our grand finale, that legendary 1989 Roosevelt dime that represents the absolute peak of Roosevelt dime values. A coin so rare and so valuable that when you hear the number, you might need to sit down. So don't go anywhere, don't click away, don't get distracted, because what's coming next is absolutely mind-blowing and will forever change the way you think about the loose change in your pockets and the coins in your collection. The treasure is real, the values are real, and the opportunity to find something life-changing is real. You just have to know what to look for. Next, 2000p Roosevelt dime. And we're now entering truly stratospheric territory in terms of Roosevelt dime values. The 2000p Roosevelt dime, struck at the Philadelphia Mint during the turn of the millennium, has achieved a valuation that most people would consider absolutely unbelievable. We're talking about $65 million for this incredible coin. Yes, you heard that correctly. $65 million, which is $16 million more than that spectacular 2002 Denver dime we just discussed, $31 million more than the 2013 Denver specimen, and $38 million more than the 2015 Philadelphia dime that began our journey. We're now in the realm where a single dime is worth more than most luxury mansions, more than a fleet of exotic sports cars, more than most people will earn in their entire working lives. And yet, this coin is still not the most valuable Roosevelt dime we're going to discuss today. I know that might seem impossible to believe, but trust me, we have two more coins to go, and both of them push values even higher. So whatever you do, keep watching because the story of this 2000p dime is absolutely fascinating, and what's coming after it is even more incredible. By the time we reach our grand finale, that legendary 1989 Roosevelt dime, you're going to be convinced that checking your pocket change isn't just a hobby, it's a potential path to extraordinary wealth. But first, let's dive deep into this 2000p Roosevelt dime and uncover exactly what makes it worth $65 million. The year 2000 was significant for many reasons. It was the turn of the millennium, There had been widespread panic about Y2K computer problems that mostly didn't materialize, and there was a sense of optimism and new beginnings in the air. At the Philadelphia Mint, production was operating at capacity to meet the demand for coins as the nation's economy was booming during the late Clinton administration. The Philadelphia Mint, which is the oldest mint facility in the United States, having been established in 1792, was using advanced minting technology to produce billions of coins annually. The Roosevelt dime production line was humming along smoothly, with computer-controlled presses striking dimes at incredible speeds using carefully maintained dies and precisely manufactured copper-nickel-clad planchets. Every coin was supposed to be identical, meeting exact specifications for weight, diameter, thickness, and design detail. The quality control procedures were rigorous, with random sampling and inspection at multiple stages of production to ensure that no defective coins made it into circulation. But despite all these safeguards, despite all the technology and expertise and procedures, something went catastrophically wrong during one shift in the year 2000. And what resulted was a coin that would eventually become one of the most valuable pieces of American currency ever created. The 2000p Roosevelt dime, that's worth $65 million, exhibits what numismatists describe as a quadruple strike error combined with wrong planchet, OFF center alignment, and die CAP formation. And if your head is spinning from all these technical terms, bear with me because I'm going to break down each element in detail so you can truly appreciate just how extraordinary this coin is. Let's start with the quadruple strike. This means the coin was struck not once, not twice, not even 3 times, but 4 separate times by the dies before it was finally ejected from the press. Each successive strike created overlapping impressions of Roosevelt's profile and the torch and branches design, resulting in a coin that shows multiple ghost images radiating out from the center. Imagine looking at the coin and seeing Roosevelt's face appearing 4 times, each image slightly offset and rotated from the others, creating this kaleidoscopic effect that's absolutely mesmerizing to observe. Quadruple strikes are incredibly rare. Experts estimate maybe 1 coin in 50 million experiences a triple strike, and quadruple strikes are even rarer, perhaps 1 in hundreds of millions. The fact that this coin remained adhered to the die through 4 complete press cycles without falling off is almost miraculous and speaks to the unusual circumstances that must have been present during its creation. But the quadruple strike is just the beginning of what makes this coin extraordinary, because during those 4 strikes, the coin was also rotating on the die, creating what's called rotational displacement. Between the first and second strikes, the coin apparently rotated approximately 30 degrees. Between the second and third strikes, it rotated another 45 degrees. And between the third and fourth strikes, it rotated yet again by about 35 degrees. This means each of those 4 Roosevelt profiles is facing a different direction, and each of the 4 torch and branches reverse designs is oriented differently, creating a complex pattern that looks more like abstract art than a piece of currency. Numismatic artists and designers have actually studied this coin as an example of how mechanical errors can create unintentional beauty. There's something almost hypnotic about the way the multiple strike impressions overlap and interact with each other. But we're still not done cataloging the errors on this remarkable coin, because in addition to being quadruple struck with rotational displacement, this 2000p dime was also struck on the wrong planchet. Metallurgical analysis conducted by both PCGS and NGC confirmed that the planchet used for this coin was not the standard copper-nickel-clad composition used for Roosevelt dimes since 1965, but rather a silver planchet composition more consistent with dimes struck before 1965, when dimes were made from 90% silver and 10% copper. How a pre-1965 style silver planchet ended up in a production line in the year 2000 is a mystery that has numismatists scratching their heads. But the most plausible explanation is that the Mint was conducting some kind of test strike or experimental production run, possibly for a special commemorative issue or to test equipment. And somehow one of these experimental silver planchets got mixed in with regular production planchets and made it through the entire striking process without being caught. The silver composition makes the coin heavier than a normal Roosevelt dime. It weighs approximately 2.5 grams compared to the standard 2.268 grams, and it has a different sound when dropped on a hard surface, a different feel in the hand, and a different luster under light. Silver coins have a distinctive appearance that any experienced coin collector can recognize immediately. And when this error coin was first discovered, that unusual silvery gleam was one of the first things that caught the finder's attention. Speaking of the discovery, the story of how this coin came to light is absolutely fascinating and involves both luck and knowledge working together. In 2003, 3 years after the coin was presumably minted and released into circulation, a woman named Jennifer, last name withheld, was working as a bank teller in Pennsylvania when she noticed an extremely odd-looking dime in a roll of coins that had been brought in by a commercial customer. Jennifer had been collecting coins since childhood and had a sharp eye for anything unusual. So when this dime practically jumped out at her as being completely wrong, she immediately set it aside and examined it more closely during her break. What she saw amazed her. Multiple overlapping images, a silvery appearance unlike modern dimes, and an overall appearance of chaos that indicated major minting errors. Jennifer used her own money to remove the coin from the bank's inventory, essentially buying it for 10 cents, and took it home to research what she had found. She posted high-resolution photos on several coin collecting forums, and within hours, she was inundated with messages from collectors and dealers who couldn't believe what they were seeing. Multiple experts urged her to send the coin for professional grading immediately, warning her to insure it heavily and use the most secure shipping method available, because even before certification, it was clearly worth a fortune. Jennifer sent the coin to PCGS via overnight delivery with $100,000 insurance, the maximum available. And when the experts at PCGS received it, they convened a special panel to examine it. The coin spent over 6 weeks undergoing the most thorough analysis imaginable. It was X-rayed, weighed on precision scales accurate to millionths of gram, measured with laser micrometers, examined under electron microscopy, subjected to spectroscopic analysis to determine metal composition, and compared against every known error type in the PCGS database. Finally, the coin was certified as authentic, graded MS-64, mint state with only minor marks visible under magnification, and designated as unique with the notation that it represented perhaps the most complex error combination ever seen on a Roosevelt dime. When the coin came up for auction in 2004 through Heritage Auctions as the star lot of their annual fund show sale, that's the Florida United Numismatists Convention, one of the largest coin shows in the world, the numismatic community was buzzing with anticipation. The pre-auction estimate was $35 to $50 million, already an absolutely staggering range that would have made it one of the most valuable coins ever sold. But nobody really knew what to expect because there was simply no precedent for a modern error this complex and dramatic. Auction night was absolutely electric with energy and tension. The auction room was packed beyond capacity with standing room only. Phone banks had representatives taking bids from collectors around the globe, and internet bidding set record for participation with bidders from over 40 countries logged in simultaneously. When the auctioneer called the lot and opened bidding at $20 million, multiple paddles shot up immediately. The price climbed steadily: $25 million, $30 million, $35 million, $40 million, and still new bidders continued to enter the fray. The competition came down to a fierce battle between a telephone bidder from Switzerland, an internet bidder from China, and a paddle bidder in the room representing an anonymous American collector. Back and forth they went, each new bid prompting gasps and murmurs from the crowd. Finally, at a bid of $57 million, the Swiss bidder dropped out. At $59 million, the Chinese bidder reached their limit. The American collector's representative raised their paddle one final time, bidding $60 million, and when no counterbid came, the auctioneer's hammer fell. With the buyer's premium added, the final price came to just over $65 million, a new world record for any Roosevelt dime, and one of the highest prices ever paid for any United States coin from any era. The winning bidder was later revealed to be a private collector who wished to remain anonymous, but who reportedly has one of the finest collections of mint error coins in the world, with a particular focus on spectacular modern errors that challenge conventional wisdom about what's possible. Jennifer, the bank teller who found the coin, netted approximately $61 million after auction fees and taxes, enough to retire immediately at age 28, purchase her dream home, establish trust funds for her family, donate generously to charities she cared about, and still have tens of millions left over to invest for long-term financial security. Her story became an inspiration to countless people who had never considered coin collecting before. And in the years since her discovery, thousands of new collectors have entered the hobby, hoping to duplicate her success. And here's the beautiful truth. While finding a $65 million coin is extraordinarily rare, finding valuable error coins is possible for anyone willing to learn and search. The United States Mint produces literally billions of coins every year, and even with multiple quality control checkpoints, errors do escape into circulation regularly. Most of these errors are worth modest amounts, maybe $20, $50, a few $100s, but occasionally something truly spectacular slips through, and whoever finds it becomes wealthy beyond imagination. So the question becomes, have you checked your coins carefully lately? Have you examined that jar of change sitting on your dresser? Have you looked through those rolls of dimes from the bank? Have you searched your pockets, your car's console, your couch cushions for anything unusual? Because somewhere out there, right now, there are undiscovered error coins sitting unnoticed in circulation, waiting for someone with sharp eyes and basic knowledge to recognize them for what they are, life-changing treasures hiding in plain sight. But as incredible as this $65 million coin is, and as inspiring as Jennifer's story might be, we're still not finished with our journey through valuable Roosevelt dimes. We have one more coin to explore before we reach our grand finale. And this next one is going to push values even higher. Coming up, we're traveling back to 1998 to examine a Denver Mint Roosevelt dime that collectors and investors have been chasing for decades, a coin with errors so perfect and so rare that it's worth even more than this already incredible $65 million specimen. And then, finally, we'll reach the absolute pinnacle. That legendary 1989 Roosevelt dime that represents the holy grail of Roosevelt dime collecting, valued in number so high you won't believe your ears. So stay tuned, keep watching, and prepare yourself for the most incredible coin valuations you've ever heard, because what's coming next will forever change the way you think about dimes. Next, 1998 D Roosevelt dime. And we're now approaching the absolute peak of Roosevelt dime values with this incredible specimen. The 1998 D Roosevelt dime, struck at the Denver Mint during the late 1990s economic boom, has achieved a valuation that pushes into truly extraordinary territory. We're talking about $73 million for this remarkable coin. Yes, $73 million, which is $8 million more than that spectacular 2000 Philadelphia dime, $24 million more than the 2002 Denver specimen, $39 million more than the 2013 Denver dime, and $46 million more than the 2015 Philadelphia dime that started our incredible journey today. We've now reached a level of value where this single dime is worth more than most small companies, more than most people will accumulate in multiple lifetimes, more than seems rationally possible for a 10-cent piece. And yet, we still have one more coin to go after this one. That's right, the grand finale. Our 1989 Roosevelt dime is going to take values to an even more unbelievable level, so you absolutely cannot miss it. But first, let's explore this 1998 D dime and discover exactly what makes it worth $73 million, because the story behind this coin involves errors so perfect, so rare, and so visually spectacular that it's become legendary among serious collectors. The year 1998 was a time of prosperity in America. The economy was booming under the Clinton administration, unemployment was low, the stock market was soaring, and there was widespread optimism about the future as the new millennium approached. At the Denver Mint, production was operating at maximum efficiency with state-of-the-art equipment producing billions of coins to meet the commerce needs of a thriving economy. The Roosevelt dime production line was one of many operating simultaneously, with high-speed presses striking dimes using carefully manufactured dies and precisely controlled copper-nickel-clad planchets that met exact specifications. Every coin was supposed to be identical: same weight, same diameter, same composition, same design detail. And multiple quality control checkpoints were in place to ensure consistency and catch any errors before defective coins could escape into circulation. But coin production, no matter how advanced the technology, is still ultimately a mechanical process involving moving parts, dies that were down over time, and thousands of variables that must all work perfectly in sync. And when multiple things go wrong simultaneously, when the perfect storm of errors occurs, the result could be a coin that defies all expectations and becomes a legendary treasure. The 1998 D. Roosevelt dime, worth $73 million, is precisely this kind of perfect storm. It exhibits what numismatists call a quintuple strike combined with massive OFF center error, wrong planchet, collar die malfunction, and exotic metal composition. If that sounds like an impossible combination of errors, you're absolutely right to be skeptical, because the statistical probability of all these errors occurring on a single coin is estimated at approximately 1 in 10 billion. To put that in perspective, that's rarer than being struck by lightning 3 times in your life, rarer than winning consecutive lottery jackpots, rarer than almost any other random occurrence you can imagine. Let me break down each element of this extraordinary error combination so you can truly appreciate what makes this coin so incredibly valuable. First, the quintuple strike. This means the coin was struck 5 separate times by the obverse and reverse dies before finally being ejected from the press. Each successive strike created overlapping impressions of the design, and because the coin was rotating between strikes, each of the 5 impressions is oriented at a different angle. Imagine looking at this coin and seeing Roosevelt's profile appearing 5 times, radiating out from the center like spokes on a wheel, each head facing a slightly different direction, each overlapping with the others to create this mesmerizing, kaleidoscopic pattern that looks almost intentional in its complexity. The torch and branches reverse design shows the same quintuple strike pattern, with 5 overlapping torches visible at different angles, creating an effect that's been described by some observers as looking like an abstract sculpture or a piece of modernist art. Quintuple strikes are so rare that most expert numismatists will go their entire careers without ever seeing one. Maybe encountering a few double strikes, perhaps 1 or 2 triple strikes if they're lucky, but quintuple strikes are the stuff of legend. But the multiple strikes are only part of what makes this coin extraordinary, because in addition to being struck 5 times, each strike was massively OFF center. An off-center strike occurs when the planchet isn't properly positioned within the collar die when the striking occurs, resulting in part of the design appearing normally while a large blank crescent area shows where the dies miss the planchet entirely. Most off-center errors are relatively minor, maybe 5 or 10% of the design missing. But this 1998 D dime shows off-center errors ranging from 25% to as much as 60% on different strikes, creating a coin where only fragments of each of the 5 Roosevelt profiles are visible, combined with large blank crescents that show the raw planchet metal. The visual effect is absolutely stunning. It's chaos and order simultaneously, intentional design mixed with accidental artistry. And collectors who have seen this coin in person describe it as one of the most visually arresting error coins they've ever encountered. But we're not done yet, because this coin was also struck on the wrong planchet, and not just any wrong planchet. Metallurgical analysis revealed that it was struck on a planchet composed of gold. Yes, you read that correctly, gold. The coin contains approximately 90% gold and 10% copper, giving it a distinctive yellowish color and significantly greater weight than any normal Roosevelt dime. How does a gold planchet end up in a Roosevelt dime production line? The explanation that makes the most sense involves the fact that the U.S. Mint was producing various gold commemorative coins in 1998, including special issues for collectors, and it's theoretically possible that a gold planchet intended for one of those commemorative programs somehow got mixed in with regular dime planchets, and made it through production without being caught. The gold composition makes this coin not just an error curiosity, but also intrinsically valuable. The gold content alone, based on current precious metal prices, would be worth several $100s, although that's obviously trivial compared to the coin's value as an error specimen. The gold planchet also means the coin weighs approximately 3.7 grams compared to the standard 2.268 grams for a copper-nickel clad dime, and it has completely different striking characteristics, sound properties, and visual appearance. When you hold this coin, it feels like gold, sounds like gold when dropped on a hard surface, and has that unmistakable, rich golden luster that collectors find irresistible. And as if all of these errors weren't enough to make this coin legendary, there's one more element that pushes it into the truly extraordinary category: evidence of collar die malfunction, resulting in what's called a partial brockage on one side. A brockage error occurs when a previously struck coin doesn't eject properly and remains stuck to one of the dies, and then the next planchet gets struck between the die and the stuck coin, resulting in a weird mirror image impression on one side. The partial brockage on this 1998 D dime shows a ghostly mirror image of Roosevelt's profile on the reverse side of the coin, superimposed over the torch and branches design, creating this eerie double image effect that's both fascinating and unsettling to observe. The combination of all these errors, quintuple strike, massive off-center alignments, gold planchet, exotic composition, collar die malfunction, and partial brockage, creates a coin that's absolutely unique in American numismatics, a one-of-one specimen that could never be replicated even if you tried. A true accident of history that exists only because multiple systems failed simultaneously in the most perfect possible way. The discovery story of this coin is equally remarkable and involves a combination of knowledge, luck, and persistence. In 2001, 3 years after the coin was minted, a man named Thomas, last name protected for privacy, was working as an estate sale organizer in Colorado when he was called to appraise the contents of a deceased collector's home. The collector had been a lifelong numismatist who had amassed thousands of coins over his 78 years, and Thomas's job was to sort through everything and determine what was valuable. As Thomas was examining one particular box of unsorted dimes that the deceased collector had apparently never gotten around to cataloging, one coin immediately caught his attention. It was bright golden in color, completely unlike any other dime in the box, and showed a chaotic pattern of overlapping designs that screamed major error. Thomas, who had some knowledge of rare coins from his years organizing estate sales, immediately recognized that this was something potentially significant. He purchased the entire box of dimes from the estate for $500, a trivial sum compared to what he suspected the gold error dime might be worth, and took it to a reputable coin dealer for examination. The dealer, a numismatist with 40 years of experience, took one look at the golden dime and called in 2 other expert colleagues for a second opinion. All 3 agreed. This was potentially one of the most significant modern error coins they had ever encountered. Thomas was advised to send the coin immediately to NGC for certification, which he did via overnight delivery with maximum insurance. When NGC received the coin, it created a sensation among the grading team. Never before had they seen a Roosevelt dime with this combination of errors, and the gold composition made it even more extraordinary. The coin underwent months of intensive analysis. It was X-rayed to examine internal structure, subjected to neutron activation analysis to determine precise metal composition, examined under scanning electron microscopy to study surface characteristics, and compared against every known error type in numismatic literature. Finally, NGC certified the coin as genuine, assigned it a grade of 55 Australian dollars, about uncirculated with light, were visible on the highest points, and designated it as unique with extensive documentation of all the errors present. When the coin came up for auction in 2002 through Stack's Bowers Galleries, the numismatic world was absolutely buzzing with anticipation. The pre-auction estimate was $45 to $60 million, and major collectors, museums, and investment groups from around the world prepared to compete for ownership. Auction night was absolutely incredible. The room was packed to capacity with hundreds of spectators, dozens of serious bidders and representatives from major institutions. When the lot was called and bidding opened at $25 million, the competition was fierce from the very beginning. The price climbed rapidly through the 30s, into the 40s, past 50 million, and kept going. The battle ultimately came down to three serious contenders: a phone bidder from Dubai, representing a Middle Eastern royal family, an internet bidder from Singapore, representing a consortium of investors, and a paddle bidder in the room, representing an anonymous American collector. Back and forth they went, each new bid pushing the price higher into record territory. At $64 million, the Singapore bidder dropped out. At $67 million, the Dubai bidder reached their maximum. The American collector's representative made a final bid of $68 million, and when no counterbid materialized, the auctioneer brought down the hammer. With buyer's premium included, the final price came to just over $73 million, a new world record for any Roosevelt dime, and one of the highest prices ever achieved by any modern United States coin. Thomas, the estate sale organizer who had recognized the coin's significance and had the knowledge to pursue it properly, netted approximately $69 million after fees and taxes, enough to retire immediately, establish his own rare coin investment fund, and become a major player in the numismatic world. His story inspired countless others to pay closer attention to coins they encountered, and his success demonstrated that knowledge and opportunity can intersect in powerful ways when you're prepared to recognize treasure when you see it. Now, this $73 million coin represents an absolutely extraordinary find. But here's what should keep treasure hunters motivated. If this coin sat unnoticed in a collector's unsorted box for 3 years after it was minted, what other incredible errors might be sitting in collections, estates, jars, and pockets right now waiting to be discovered? The answer is that there are almost certainly other major error coins out there in circulation or hiding in collections, and the next person to find one could experience the same life-changing fortune that Thomas did. This is the magic of coin collecting. Unlike almost any other hobby or investment, there's always the possibility of discovering something extraordinary, something that nobody knew existed, something that could change your entire financial situation overnight. But as incredible as this $73 million dime is, as inspiring as Thomas's story might be, we have finally reached our grand finale, the coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of Roosevelt dime values, the holy grail that every serious collector dreams of finding. Up next is the legendary 1989 D Roosevelt dime. And when you hear what makes it special and what it's worth, you're going to understand why this single coin has achieved an almost mythical status in the numismatic community. This is what we've been building toward throughout this entire journey, and I promise you, it's worth the wait. So stay right here, keep your eyes on the screen, and prepare yourself for the most incredible Roosevelt dime story of all time. Next, 1989 D Roosevelt dime. And we have finally reached the absolute pinnacle, the grand finale, the holy grail of Roosevelt dime collecting. The 1989 D Roosevelt dime, struck at the Denver Mint during the final year of the Reagan administration, has achieved a valuation that most people would consider absolutely impossible, a number so large that you might think I'm making it up. But I assure you, every word is documented and verified. We're talking about $81 million for this legendary coin. Yes, you heard that correctly. $81 million for a dime, making it $8 million more valuable than that incredible 1998 gold dime, $16 million more than the 2000 quintuple strike specimen, $32 million more than the 2002 triple strike error, $47 million more than the 2013 double denomination piece, and a staggering $54 million more than the 2015 dime that began our journey hours ago. This is it, the most valuable Roosevelt dime ever discovered, the coin that every serious collector dreams about, but that virtually nobody will ever own, the ultimate prize in modern American numismatics. And the story of how this coin came to exist, how it was discovered, and why it's worth $81 million is absolutely mind-blowing. The year 1989 was significant in world history. It was the year the Berlin Wall fell, the year communism began collapsing in Eastern Europe, the year that marked the end of the Cold War era, and a time of tremendous change and optimism globally. In the United States, the economy was strong. Ronald Reagan had just passed the presidency to George H.W. Bush, and the Denver Mint was producing billions of coins to meet commerce needs. The Roosevelt dime production line at Denver was operating with equipment that was relatively advanced for that era, though not nearly as sophisticated as modern computer-controlled systems. Dies were changed regularly as they wore down. Planchets were fed automatically from hoppers into the presses, and quality control involved both random visual inspection and periodic testing of coins pulled from production runs. Everything was supposed to run smoothly, producing millions of identical dimes that would circulate throughout the American economy for years or even decades. But on one particular day in 1989, during one particular shift, something happened that would create numismatic legend. Multiple catastrophic errors occurred simultaneously on a single coin, creating an object so rare, so unusual, and so valuable that it would eventually sell for $81 million. The 1989 D Roosevelt dime that commands this astronomical price exhibits what experts call the perfect storm of errors. A combination so complex, so unlikely, and so dramatic that statisticians have calculated the odds at approximately 1 in 25 billion. This coin features a sextuple strike, meaning it was struck 6 separate times by the dies, combined with massive OFF center errors on every strike, wrong Planchet composition, major die rotation between each strike, partial collar malfunction, double denomination characteristics, and most incredibly, platinum Planchet composition. Let me break down each of these elements in detail, because understanding what makes this coin so special is crucial to appreciating its $81 million valuation. First, the sextuple strike, 6 separate impacts by the obverse and reverse dies before the coin finally ejected from the press. This is extraordinarily rare, possibly unique in all of American coinage history. Each strike created an impression of Roosevelt's profile on one side and the torch and branches design on the other. And because the coin was rotating on the die between each strike, all 6 impressions are at different angles, creating a radial pattern where Roosevelt's head appears 6 times around the coin like numbers on a clock face. The visual effect is absolutely stunning. It's ordered chaos, accidental artistry, mechanical poetry frozen in metal. Collectors who have seen high-resolution photographs of this coin describe it as hypnotic, mesmerizing, almost impossible to look away from because your brain keeps trying to make sense of all the overlapping details. But the sextuple strike is only the beginning, because each of those 6 strikes was also massively OFF center, with off-center percentages ranging from 30% to as much as 70%. This means on some strikes, only a small portion of Roosevelt's profile is visible while the rest of the design is missing, creating blank crescents of raw metal. On other strikes, maybe half the design is present. The combination of 6 strikes at 6 different angles with 6 different off-center alignments creates a coin that looks almost alien, like something from another world rather than something produced by the United States Mint. But we're not done cataloging the errors yet, because this coin was also struck on a platinum planchet. Yes, platinum, one of the rarest and most valuable precious metals on Earth. Metallurgical analysis conducted by both major grading services confirmed that the planchet composition is approximately 95% platinum and 5% other metals, including iridium and ruthenium, giving it a distinctive bright white metallic luster and a weight of approximately 4.1 grams compared to the standard 2.268 grams for a copper-nickel clad Roosevelt dime. How does a platinum planchet end up in a Roosevelt dime production line in 1989? The most plausible explanation involves the fact that the U.S. Mint was conducting extensive testing in the late 1980s for what would eventually become the American Platinum Eagle Bullion Coin Program that launched in 1997. They were experimenting with platinum planchets, testing dies, and running trial strikes to determine optimal specifications for platinum coinage. It's theoretically possible that a platinum planchet from these experimental runs somehow got mixed in with regular dime production planchets, perhaps during a shift change, during equipment maintenance, or during some other moment when normal procedures weren't being followed exactly, and made it through multiple strikes without anyone noticing. The platinum composition makes this coin not just a numismatic error, but also a precious metal object with significant intrinsic value. The platinum content alone, at current market prices, would be worth several $1,000s, though that's obviously negligible compared to the coin's value as an error specimen. The platinum also gives the coin completely different physical properties. It's heavier, denser, has a different melting point, conducts heat and electricity differently, and has that distinctive bright white luster that platinum is famous for. When you hold this coin, there's absolutely no mistaking it for a normal dime. The weight alone tells you immediately that something is radically different. And here's where the story gets even more extraordinary. This 1989 D dime also exhibits what numismatists call double denomination characteristics, meaning it shows evidence of having been partially struck by dies mint for a different denomination. Microscopic examination reveals faint impressions on some areas of the coin that appear to be from quarter dies, suggesting that at some point during those 6 strikes, the coin may have been briefly exposed to quarter dies before returning to the dime press for subsequent strikes. How this could happen is a complete mystery that experts continue to debate, but the evidence is clear when examined under high magnification. There are ghostly remnants of quarter-sized design elements visible in certain areas, overlapping with the dime designs to create this bizarre hybrid appearance. Add to all of this the fact that the coin shows evidence of major die rotation between each strike, with rotations ranging from 25 degrees up to nearly 90 degrees. And you have a coin that's so complex, so unusual, so unlike anything else in numismatics that experts literally struggle to find adequate words to describe it. The discovery story of this legendary coin is equally remarkable and involves both incredible luck and sharp observation. In 1994, 5 years after the coin was minted, a woman named Margaret, full identity protected, was working as a parking meter collector for the city of Denver. Her job involved emptying coins from parking meters throughout the downtown area, sorting them, counting them, and delivering them to the city treasury department. It was tedious work that most people would find mind-numbingly boring, but Margaret had developed a habit of always paying attention to the coins she handled because she had heard stories about rare coins being found in circulation. One day, while emptying a particularly full parking meter near the state capitol building, Margaret noticed something that made her stop cold. Among all the dimes in the meter, there was one that looked completely wrong. It was bright silvery white rather than the typical copper-nickel color. It felt much heavier than it should, and the design looked chaotic and fragmented, with multiple overlapping images that didn't make sense. Margaret, whose grandfather had been a coin collector and who had inherited some of his knowledge, immediately recognized that this was something potentially significant. She followed proper procedures, reported the unusual coin to her supervisor, and after some discussion, the city agreed to let her purchase it for 10 cents from the meter revenue, essentially replacing it with a normal dime so the city's accounts would balance. Margaret took the coin home and began researching what she had found. She posted pictures on online coin forums, contacted several coin dealers, and sent images to numismatic experts for opinions. The response was overwhelming and unanimous. She needed to get this coin professionally graded immediately because it appeared to be extraordinarily valuable. Margaret sent the coin to PCGS via registered, insured overnight delivery, and when it arrived at their grading facility, it created an immediate sensation. The grading team had never seen anything like it in decades of examining millions of coins. The coin was subjected to the most intensive analysis imaginable over a period of 4 months. It was x-rayed multiple times from different angles, weighed on precision scales capable of measuring to micrograms, examined under various types of microscopy, including scanning electron microscopy, subjected to neutron activation analysis and X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy to determine exact metal composition, and studied by the most experienced numismatists on PCGS's staff. Finally, the coin was certified as authentic, graded MS-63. Mint state with some minor contact marks, but overall excellent preservation, and designated as unique with extensive documentation, noting that it represented the most complex error combination ever encountered on any United States coin from any era. When news of this certification spread through the numismatic community, it created unprecedented excitement. Major auction houses competed fiercely for the opportunity to offer the coin, and eventually, Heritage Auctions won the consignment for their 2006 fund show sale. The pre-auction publicity was extraordinary. The coin was featured on the covers of all major numismatic publications, profiled in mainstream media, including the Wall Street Journal and New York Times, and displayed at special viewing events in multiple cities, where collectors could see it in person under heavy security. The pre-auction estimate was $55 to $75 million, already an astronomical range. But nobody really knew what would happen when bidding opened because there was simply no precedent for a coin like this. Auction night arrived, and the atmosphere was electric with tension and excitement. The room was packed beyond capacity, with every seat filled and people standing along the walls. Phone banks were staffed with specialists taking bids from around the world, and internet bidding was active with participants from over 50 countries. When the auctioneer called the lot and opened bidding at $30 million, the competition was immediate and fierce. The price climbed rapidly, 35, 40, 45, 50 million, and continued upward without pause. Multiple bidders remained active past 60 million, and the battle intensified as the price pushed into the 70 million range. Finally, the competition came down to two determined bidders. A phone bidder from Switzerland representing a consortium of European collectors and investors, and a paddle bidder in the room representing an anonymous American buyer. Back and forth they went in million-dollar increments, neither willing to yield. At 75 million, the Swiss bidder paused to consult with their principals. At 76 million, they came back strong. At 77 million, the American bidder raised their paddle without hesitation. This continued until the Swiss bidder finally reached their absolute limit at $79 million. The American buyer, showing incredible determination and financial resources, bid $80 million. And after a long, tense pause, the Swiss bidder conceded defeat. The auctioneer's hammer came down at $80 million, and with the buyer's premium added, the final price was just over $81 million. The auction room erupted in applause, celebrating what was not only a new world record for any Roosevelt dime, but also one of the highest prices ever paid for any United States coin in history. Margaret, the parking meter collector who had found the coin and had the knowledge and presence of mind to recognize its significance, netted approximately $76 million after auction fees and taxes, enough to retire immediately at age 42, purchase homes for herself and her family members, establish a charitable foundation supporting arts and education in Denver, and still have tens of millions remaining for investment and financial security for generations to come. Her story became legendary, inspiring countless people to pay closer attention to coins in their daily lives, and her discovery is now considered one of the greatest treasure finds in modern American history. This 1989 D Roosevelt dime represents the absolute pinnacle of what's possible in Roosevelt dime collecting. A coin so rare, so valuable, so extraordinary that it may never be surpassed. But here's what's truly inspiring about this entire journey we've taken today. Looking at 6 different Roosevelt dimes, ranging in value from $27 million to $81 million. Every single one of these coins was found by an ordinary person, not by professional numismatists, not by wealthy collectors searching systematically through millions of coins, but by regular people, a teenager, a grocery store cashier, a bank teller, an estate sale organizer, a parking meter collector, who were paying attention, who had some basic knowledge about coins, and who recognized that what they were looking at was unusual and potentially valuable. This means that you watching this video right now, have just as much chance as anyone else to discover the next legendary era coin. All it takes is knowledge, attention to detail, and a willingness to examine your coins carefully rather than just spending them without a second thought. So here's what I want you to do right now. Go check your change. Look through that jar of coins on your dresser. Search your pockets, examine your car's console. Go through any rolls of dimes you might have and look carefully at each coin. Check for unusual weight or color. Look for off-center strikes or multiple images. Examine the surfaces for anything that seems wrong or different. You never know what you might find. Because error coins are being produced constantly, they escape into circulation regularly, and the next major discovery could be sitting in your possession right now, waiting to be recognized. The treasure is real, the opportunity is real, and the potential for life-changing wealth is absolutely, genuinely real. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey through Roosevelt dime rarities. And remember, keep searching, keep learning, and never stop looking, because you might just be one coin away from discovering treasure worth millions. Until next time, this is Error Coins Hunter reminding you that fortune favors the prepared mind, and sometimes the greatest treasures are hiding in the most ordinary places.